Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for the first meeting with an L3Harris panel. My name is Chantal. I am the president of FTC, and tonight the panel will be discussing things under the theme of technical communication, engineering, and management. Tomorrow, we are going to have another panel with employees of L3Harris about entering the tech comm field. That will be hybrid, so you can join us both on Zoom and we will be in the Health Sciences 1 building. So yeah, I'm very excited for tonight. Tonight we have Melissa Melissa Rios, and Luke Gilbert on the panel from L3Harris. We're very thankful they could all come tonight. And yeah, I'm just really excited to hear the expertise. So without further ado, we can get started with the beginning of the panel. So whoever would like to go first.
I guess I will go ahead and start if that's okay, Mo.
Yep.
So do you want me to go ahead and do say like introductions and that sort of thing? Okay.
Yeah, so
So
yeah.
mhm. So my name is Melissa Rios. I graduated from UCF with a Tech Comm degree back in 1995, so a very long time ago. Um, And I've been with L3Harris for 23 years now, 27 years within the defense industry. Started as a technical writer a long time ago, and have moved into training development, actual training, which I do not enjoy. Then moved into logistics, business development, which meant I was working on proposal efforts. And then this year, I stepped into an engineering management role for the integrated product support department here at L3Harris. So a little bit about integrated product support. So there are 12 elements that line underneath the term integrated product support, which is a DoD term. And technical writing is one of those elements that do align underneath IPS. So you'll hear that. So government loves their acronyms. So if we say a bunch of acronyms and you don't know what that means, stop us, ask us. It's habit for us. So IPS, like I said, it has technical writing, does align underneath that, as well as technical training, logistics, sparing analysis, maintainability, sustainability. And then we also, there's a bunch of different things that all kind of just get shoved underneath the umbrella of IPS. So a little bit about the department, since I am the engineering manager for this department. We are sitting at 160 employees in the department right now. Yeah, Mo's shaking her head because the beginning of the year we were around 85 and now we're at 160. And we are spread across 7 states. So most of us are located in the Melbourne, Palm Bay, Florida area, but we do have a growing number of people that work in the Northern Virginia area, so the DC metro area, Colorado Springs, and then we have people in Vandenberg, California, so Lompoc, New Mexico, Montana, no, not Montana, wrong state, Oregon, and we have one lucky gentleman who gets to live in Hawaii. So, so that's just a little bit about me and the department that I am the manager for.
All right, I'll jump in second. I've given a quick intro before, but I'll repeat because I think we have some people that have come in since then. My name is Melissa Olds. I am relatively new to L3Harris. I've been here for only 2.5 years. I am a technical writer. I graduated from UCF in, I think it was 2021 with my tech comm degree. Right before my senior year, the first L3Harris IPS internship program started, and I was able to get that first internship. I had that internship, then I started the very next summer when I graduated, and then I've been touching or helping or assisting with those interns each year since. So I think this is our 5th one, right, Melissa? think so.
Yeah, fourth or fifth. I've kind of
Fourth or
lost count. So
it's going well.
it's going well.
Yeah. So I am the intern coordinator this year. If you have questions about the internship, if you have questions in general, I'm happy to answer them. My email is probably on one of the pieces of a flyer or something, but if you need it, I can give you my email address. I'm happy to answer questions, happy to give you some more insight if you need it. I think that's it.
All right, Luke, that's your turn.
Oh boy, my turn. So my name is Luke. I said earlier that I've been working with L3Harris for about a little over 10 years now. I graduated from the College of Charleston back in 2011 with a degree in business administration and a minor in logistics. And it took me a while to find a job out of college because it was still the post-2008 recession. But once I landed at Harris, it was a really good fit for me. So I've been working here ever since.
I was muted. It has to happen once a meeting. Thank you to our panelists for the introductions. So this is the Q&A portion. If anyone has a question, they can unmute themselves and ask the question, or they can put it in the chat. I am looking at that so I can see it and ask it for you. So yeah, if anyone has a question, please feel free to ask it. If not, I have a couple of questions prepared.
I'll just jump in. Hi. Thank you so much for sharing all of your roles, and I am interested to better understand how all three of you either work together, how your teams overlap, like what does kind of technical writing look in each of your roles, and how do you work together?
Melissa, you want to do the functional versus program speech?
So the way L3Harris works is, so we, unlike other defense contractors, we hire for a skill set and we don't hire for a contract. We do have contracts which will drive the need to hire somebody, but once we hire somebody, we're keeping them because we want that skill set. So once we get a program, we will assign somebody to that program to work. They could be multiple people. For example, Melissa works on a classified program with three other tech writers, right? Yes, three other technical writers. Luke currently is also on a classified program, and he is a lone wolf. He works all by himself. So it kind of just depends on what the actual need is versus, just putting people on to work together as a team. Now, in regards to the functional, which is what I am, when I talk about the IPS department, we are a group of, the technical writers, the technical trainers, the logisticians, and we will work various programs, but we still work together and mentor each other and have that reach back support. So for example, Melissa will come to me every once in a while and say, okay, you've been here forever. How did you handle this situation in the past? So I will dig into my archives or, dust the cobwebs off of my brain and help her figure out how to attack a problem that she's currently having, and because maybe I've dealt with it in the past. We also are very good, at least our department, we love mentoring. So that is something that we feel very strongly about, is finding somebody that has the expertise and the skill set, and we align them with somebody who may be very new to that field or new to that skill set, and get them working together. And it may not necessarily be on the job, but they could meet via Teams, which is the tool we use, versus Zoom. Have weekly tag ups via Teams, or if they happen to be in the same area, meet up in person, have lunch together, maybe have coffee, whatever they need to do to be able to learn a skill set and develop and grow. So that because the whole goal of being with a company, especially if you want to have a long career with that company, is you need to continue to develop and grow your skill set. Again, as I mentioned, IPS, we wear a bunch of different hats. And as I said in my introduction, I started out as a technical writer, but learned training development and logistics along the way. And that was because as I was exposed to these skill sets on various programs, I realized, hey, this is something I can do that. And then I found somebody to help me learn how to do it. So hopefully that answers
Thank you.
And then obviously, Mo has been with us. We call her Mo because there's too many Melissas. So Mo has been with us for a couple of years. She's one of our rock stars. And then, of course, Luke has been with us. He got sucked into a vault a long time ago, but he still manages to make the contributions and support training development. That's his passion, is training and training development. And he is still one of our go-to people. And even though he's in a vault all the time, he still makes efforts to mentorship. So hopefully they have some insights that they can share.
Sometimes they let me see the sun,
but not very often.
I was going to jump in and say, because of, as she was describing, you're not hired into just a contract. It means that I have been able to work, I've probably worked 10, 13 different programs since I've started. I've been able to go in and do a quick react effort on a program, meet people, get to know them, do it, get out again. There are other programs that I've been working on almost since I started, that I don't work with them every single day, but they'll come back and say, Melissa, and I'll jump in there. So as opposed to being kind of just in that one area, it's not like you learn the tech and then that's all the tech you're going to learn for the next 5 years until the next contract starts. I'm constantly learning new programs, learning new tech, learning new, sometimes it's hardware, sometimes it's software, sometimes it's both. And you just kind of get to jump in both feet. That's one of the things we value, is being able to jump in and just start asking questions. Just stop people in the hall. Excuse me, who are you and what do you do? Do I need information from you? No, maybe not quite that aggressive, but being able to roll into a program and pitch in where you need to is really valuable. And it's valuable in reverse for us to be able to get just huge amounts of experience really quickly.
And sometimes we have to be aggressive. I have literally chased down engineers, literally.
Thank you for that question. So the next one comes from the chat. Rolanda is asking, what do your day-to-day responsibilities look like?
So that's going to vary depending on who is answering that question.
I could start us off for my own personal experience. So usually my day-to-day tends to change from day to day. In the recent history for the programs of support, a lot of them are in their sort of early development or early phase. So a lot of them don't need a full-time trainer or a full-time tech writer on hand. So oftentimes they'll bid me for half-time or quarter time. So over the course of the year, I can go from supporting one program to supporting 3 programs in their own, sort of phases and stages, where for some programs are sort of, legacy programs that have been up and running for decades. So one thing I'll do is I'll sort of be on hand for when they do a biannual software and system update. I'll come in and I'll see what changes they made. I'll update their documentation. I'll update their training materials and make sure that if someone's new to the system, they don't get confused on what these new buttons and new features do. So, but that only requires me to be there for a few months out of the year. So when I'm not doing that, I'm working on other programs that might be in their very, very early stages. It needs someone to sort of get everything kickstarted, develop the training modules, some training materials, get all the baseline documentation down so that in the future, if there's any sort of more work done to it, then they can use it as a building block. So from day to day, I get to sort of, see different programs in different phases and sort of fill in the gaps of what needs to be done that day. So it's very flexible and very varied. So I don't have to worry about, getting too stuck in a rut.
Mo, you want to go next?
Yes, I will go next. So Luke just described what we might call an individual contributor, where he's boots on the ground doing stuff all the time. Melissa's going to tell you about her day. She's in the management chain, so a lot of what she's doing will be focused on those management tasks. And I'm right in the middle, which I didn't realize until just now. I am an individual contributor most of the time, but I'm also a GL, a group leader. That means that I'm that first line of help and assistance and support for, I think I have 7 people right now. So my day will look like, often I'll start the beginning of the week. I'll have team meetings, group meetings, program meetings. We'll get sort of figure out what we're going to do for the week, who's doing what, who's on first. I'll be keeping an eye on my team's app to see if anybody needs support from me, either program side or on that functional side, that GL side. Midway through the week, I set aside time to put together an update for my team. I send out an email and make sure I'm underscoring important things to either the department, the segment, or the company. I also will do one-on-one meetings with the people that I'm leading. I will do, when I have a new hire, I see them quite a bit. Normally, the people that are under me, I only see them one-on-one, maybe once a quarter. But we're sort of keeping an eye forward. Beginning of the year, we're talking about setting goals. The end of the year, we're talking about how to report those goals as achieved. And then I come back Thursday and I'm right back into a program. So for me, it's cool to be able to kind of shift focus in and out day to day.
Yep. And so for me, as Mo mentioned, so I'm definitely on the management side of things now. My day is can rapidly change just as quickly as Luke's and Mo's can, depending upon the needs that are coming from the various programs. So I am a business focused lead for one of our strategic missions division. It's a classified product line. So I am the focused person for the entire specialty engineering functional, which IPS aligns underneath. So I have to tag up with all the other engineering managers, make sure that they are aware of the needs that are coming out of that business area, and convey any information that's coming from that area to the engineering managers, make sure that staffing is being addressed, any proposal efforts that are being that are coming up. Do they have people prepared to support those proposals? At the same time, I have to review those proposals that are being written for my functional. I have to work the different placements and who is going to the different programs coming up to me saying, hey, I have this need. Do you have somebody that can fill this need? Have to review everybody that's in the department and who has availability, who has the skill set, work with the group leads, work with the super group leads, work with my director, deal with personnel problems, any kind of concerns or issues that are coming up, career discussions. It's it's a full day. And on top of all that, financials, I get to deal with all of that. So that is what my day looks like every day. And but before that, when I was doing technical writing, training, and logistics, I had a very similar day. Find out what the need was for the day, what the focus was, and run down the person to get you the information that you needed. And then also interfacing with the customers a lot of times towards the end of the program. So we are usually the face that the customer sees, versus the other engineering teams. So
Great. It was nice to hear all of how the day-to-day looks different for you all. We did get quite a few questions about the internship, so I think we can ask these quickly, more rapid fire. So the first question about the internship is, do you offer internships to career changers / tech newbies or only to students?
So right now, the way the internship, and it's not specific to our department, it's just the way L3Harris handles internship, is it is required that you be an active student to be able to apply for an internship. That's the L3Harris policy.
Okay. And then the next one is it possible to do the internship remotely? Andrew is saying I live far away from Melbourne.
So it is possible, but we definitely will recommend trying to be on campus for the 2 months of the internship. It's 10 weeks during the summer, and there is you can work with the university relations recruiter. When you are if you are selected for the internship, you can work with that university relations recruiter, and I believe there is a stipend to get you to the area. So they will provide you with a way to live near the L3Harris campus in Palm Bay.
Okay, great. The next one is, if we've already applied for the internship, who should we follow up with / what are the next steps?
Follow up with me. I've seen at least one resume, so, and possibly two. Follow up with me if you haven't heard from me. I apologize. This week has been on fire. But usually when I receive a resume, I'll usually kick an email back that says received. Thanks. The next step is that we're going to try and do interviews. I think we're trying to do interviews in January this
Beginning
year.
of January.
Yeah, I think the internship resume closes at the end of the year. We're going to start doing interviews in January. So once we've gotten all the resumes, we reviewed them, we've selected the people that we'd like to speak to further, then I'll be reaching out directly to set appointments.
Okay, great. The next question is, what stands out when applying for an internship? What is the main thing the company is looking for in an intern?
So the big things that I'm looking for, I want to see that tech writing is a main goal for you. If I'm going to I only have the one internship, and if I'm giving it to one person, I'm not giving it to other people. So I want to make sure that I'm really strategic about bringing in a technical writer that's really going to want to develop that skill set. That's what we're focused on. So that's the first thing I'm looking for, is like, is it partly, is it sort of, or is this your passion? The other things I'm looking for, if you've got experience where you have had to research, where you've had to gather information, where you've had to interview somebody, anything that you can demonstrate where you've been able to proactively go out and get information and then incorporate it back into a project, that's awesome. That's a huge part of the job, and not something that we can necessarily teach. It's something that you have to go do. So if you can talk to me about that, that's going to be awesome. Melissa, can you think of anything else that we're really looking for, at least during that resume review period?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. Obviously we are, talking to to you, and want to be able to also recognize that you are somebody that's going to be able to interact with the team. There's got to be kind of a melding, or we got to realize that, yes, this is somebody that's going to be a good fit for the team as well, because you're 10 weeks working with us, and we're gonna expose you to as much as we can expose you to. You're not going to just be sitting with another tech writer. You're not going to be just sitting at your desk. We're going to have presentations for the various disciplines that are within IPS. We're going to have you working with other people, logisticians and maintainers. We're going to to have you do tours of the various programs that are, you know, open and able to give you tours. I mean, obviously, half of our programs are classified, so we can't expose you to those, but all the rest of them that we can get you exposure to, we're gonna have you do tours with them. So you've got to be somebody who is inquisitive and wanting to, that we believe is going to be able to meld and work well with the team environment. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. I believe that that's all of the internship questions for now. So the next question we have comes from Joy. Which tools and software does the IPS team at L3Harris utilize for documentation writing?
I can jump in for this one.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a variety. So yeah, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, so as Melissa said, that there is a large variety of software and tools that we use, because essentially each one of the programs we support can tend to have their own sort of preferences, because they have different customers, and different customers have different tastes. So it doesn't matter if if you've been using one particular tool for a long time. If the customer wants something a certain way, you make sure you deliver what they want. So some customers that I've dealt with in the past will just want things in, Microsoft Word. They don't want anything crazy or fancy. They just want, a big book that they can have someone read through. But for other programs and other projects, we've used Adobe Dreamweaver, which is sort of like an HTML or an XML sort of writing format, where the simplest way I can explain it is that you're sort of making web pages, but you're not connected to the internet. They're just sort of, a internally referencing sort of, web page. You can scan for details and documentation data, and being able to learn new software and be able to be quick on your feet and, try out and utilize these different tools is really important. So having a good spread of different writing techniques and tools is good. Some of our customers, they like to have their writing in a format called S1000D, which is a very, it's not often talked about, but it is often used for like certain zones and industries. And if you know about that, then you have a big leg up on your competition.
So S1000D is a standard that is used by the international community. But another way that you can think about it is, so if you hear somebody ask you what's the difference between structured and unstructured documentation, S1000D is a structured documentation format versus an unstructured documentation format, which would be like Word. So that's going to be the difference. S1000D is a very specific, very long, very painful standard that is used by the international community. It is being adopted by a lot of our military contracts. So a Navy especially loves the using S1000D. The Air Force is using it, but only for certain programs, mainly for the jets, fighter jets. So we only have a few programs that use the structured authoring, the S1000D, but yeah, so we have various programs that use FrameMaker, RoboHelp, Dreamweaver, which was mentioned, Microsoft Word, Confluence is one that is showing up quite a lot. Madcat Flare, am I missing anything, Mo? I know I'm missing some.
So then that's just for authoring. Don't forget that we end up doing most of our own figures. I haven't heard about a program that has what would it be, like a digital artist? I haven't worked on a program like that. So most of the figures,
the illustrators are long gone.
Yeah, so we do our own figures. So that's Photoshop, Illustrator. I worked on a program and she was just doing screen caps and paint. The idea is just if you can find a program where you're comfortable grabbing an image, being able to clean everything off of it, and then add in reference boxes or annotations or something like that. So those kinds of programs. I also wanted to point out that if you have the chance to take an HTML class, I would suggest it. HTML, obviously, if you're working in Dreamweaver, I'm working another program that's also HTML. If you get a chance to directly apply it, that's really handy. However, even if you aren't writing in or tagging with HTML, the idea of how style sheets, CSS, and HTML work together, how they influence and impact each other, is an incredibly important concept that applies directly to Word. That when we say we're using Microsoft Word, I'm going to take you to the back room. We're going to look at how styles work. We're going to connect styles to like multi-level lists, and then we're going to name them. And we're going to, like, when we are doing this, you're doing much heavier lifting than just word processing. So understanding that connection, I think Frame is the same way too, right? Where
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah, you've got your text and then your styles. So for me, HTML and CSS, getting that connection was really important.
Yeah, so Mo is our Microsoft Word expert, and I am the Adobe FrameMaker expert. So if you have questions about FrameMaker, they usually come to me, and if somebody has a problem in Word, they go to Mo.
Definitely sounds like there's a wide variety being used. The next question is, what or how would you suggest someone learn to be a successful tech writer and looking to get those first roles? We can also expand this question if you want to talk about your own personal journey into tech comm, and then just touching on that question broadly. So however the panel would like to take that.
So I will say that we do have some technical writers that we hired that did not have a tech comm degree. Matter of fact, I have somebody she's been with the company 6 years now, and she was a lit major from UCF. And so she is obviously, we hired her because she was able to impress upon us that she had the skill set to be able to learn how to do technical writing. So she jumped in, she learned how to do technical writing. We threw her in with somebody who was an experienced technical writer. And actually, funny story is about 3 years in, she decided tech writing wasn't for her, and now she is one of my logistics people that I go to for everything. It's because she got she got thrown onto a program, and they said, "Hey, well, while you're doing the tech writing, can you also, do some inventorying and figure out the sparing analysis?" And she found out she really loves to do that. So. It's not that we are only looking for technical writers. For the internship, we are going to focus on trying to get somebody who is a tech comm major. However, if we are working, if you see that there is an opening for a technical writer, if you can impress upon the interviewer that you have the ability to understand technical language and convey it in such a way that an end user is going to be able to understand it, then without having, the creative or extra flowery language, then, hopefully that they will be willing to give you a chance and an opportunity to try your hand. I would say, don't be trying to shoot for a lead position. If you don't have extensive technical writing experience, try to get one of the entry level positions so you can get your foot in the door. That would be my first recommendation. Because as somebody who is a hiring manager, if I get a resume for a level 5 position, which is a lead position, and I don't see any technical writing on your resume, I'm probably not going to call you. So, but if you're applying for an entry level position, if your resume shows that you have put some thought into it, that you don't have any typos, that your sentence structure is very clear and concise, that your resume is visually appealing, that you have made the effort to make your resume impactful and noticeable without being like too don't go too extreme, because then I'm kind of like, what is going on here? I will be more likely to call you, because your resume is the very first thing, especially in a writing position, that you're going to be judged on. So if I see a resume for a technical writer that has a ton of typos in it, or misspellings, or sentence fragments, or you're applying for a technical writing role and you are giving me, the story of your life, I'm probably not going to call you. So, but if you show technical writing skill sets in your resume, I will probably give you a call.
Melissa, I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Do you look at portfolios? And if so, like, what are the things that you're looking for?
So if somebody sends me a link to a portfolio, it's going to depend on where the portfolio is stored. So L3Harris network, there are certain places that I cannot access, like the Google Docs, I cannot get there. So because it is there are too many holes in Google Docs that could allow viruses onto the L3Harris network. So we cannot access Google Docs. So it's going to depend on where your portfolio is. Highly recommend that you do LinkedIn, because if I see a LinkedIn profile on a resume and your resume makes an impression on me, I will go to LinkedIn and I will check you out on LinkedIn. So highly recommend that you have a strong LinkedIn profile. So if you have LinkedIn and you can put your portfolio out there, again, if I take a look at your portfolio, I'm going to be looking to see what style of writing do you have? Is it clean? Is it concise? Is it showing a technical proficiency? Are there typos? Are there misspellings? What is your sentence structure like? Are you using grammar correctly? Because I am a little bit of a grammar snob. So are you using your punctuation and your grammar correctly? What is your formatting? What does it look like? Is it something that is visually appealing, or is it very extreme, or is it, that you just kind of threw words on the page? So, you've got to take a look at it, take a step back. If you have some tech writer friends, have them take a look at it before you post it. So, having peer reviews, cannot say enough about peer reviews. Have somebody take a look at your stuff. Have multiple people take a look at your stuff. At every revision, have somebody take a look at your stuff. Do not assume that you are not making any mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. You can ask Mo. I've been with the company for 23 years, and I'll be like, Mo, read this. So yeah, peer reviews. Strong advocate of peer reviews.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to jump in real quick on the portfolio question. We have somebody on our team that whenever we send her somebody for an interview, she immediately goes out. She's looking for your portfolio. She's looking for your LinkedIn. She's Googling you. She's going out and did you write for a magazine? Have you written other content? She's all over it. So
she's our department stalker.
Yeah, we like it. In general, remember that employers are going to use the internet to Google you. So as always, be responsible when you're a professional. The other big one is using a portfolio. We can fill in some of the gaps that a TechComm major may find that they have some technical experience gaps that when you go into an interview, they say, tell me your experience reading an engineering drawing. And we say, what? So a portfolio is a really cool place to be able to create a place to do the research, go in and read up about some technical issue, item, whatever it is, then turn it around and explain it as you would as a tech writer. You're creating that opportunity that you're not just waiting for it to show up in a job, you're actually creating an opportunity to write about something technical. You can research things like Engineering drawings is a big one. That question comes up, I think, in every tech writing interview. I would be surprised if they didn't. Interconnect drawings. Melissa, what are other documents?
Yeah, now that you put me on the spot.
Anyway, go through there,
Yeah,
research
flow
it, see what
diagrams, those kind of things.
And
yep.
I'll just cut in here for just a moment. When I was going through the hiring process, one thing that really got me head and shoulders above the competition was that I had a lot of, additional skills along with, because I wasn't a tech comm major, I was a business major. So I had, business proposals and I had deep dives onto, economics and things like that. But what really let me stand out was that I had already had a very small portfolio of video production that I had done, because in high school, that was sort of my passion, was recording things and editing them using, digital nonlinear editors like Adobe Premiere and Sony Vegas and programs like that. So even if it's not, a quote unquote technical document, if you can show like, hey, I have a video tutorial I made on, how to do something online on YouTube, here's a clip of it that I can show you that says like, here I am explaining information in an easy, concise way that's, outside the boundaries of Microsoft Word. So that's one way you can also stand out.
Thank you, guys.
Mhm.
I was muted. I guess it has to happen twice a meeting. So does anyone else have any questions that they would like to unmute to ask or put in the chat?
This might be an unfair question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Um, I guess how much do you need to know before you actually start like applying for jobs?
So can you clarify a little bit more? Like what do you mean by what do you need to know, as in regards to the ability to tech write, or are you talking about like and working for an engineering company or a defense contractor?
Technical writing, just in general.
So we're definitely going to be looking for professional writing styles. You need to be able to master that. That's a lot of reading professional documents and then writing professional documents, even if that's just sitting down and saying, I'm going to write a report. I'm going to write some sort of professional document. Get used to a professional writing style. That's where I would start. You're going to do that the whole way through your degree. That's one of the things they're teaching you. They're refining that style and that voice for you. That said, I wouldn't say wait until you have that mastered. Start applying. Go to interviews. Interview with everyone who will sit down. And it's an awesome time for you to have practice. Also, usually they go, so do you have any questions? And you're like, yes, I have a list. And you can learn about the profession. You can learn about the companies in those meetings. So I mean, don't go applying for the president of the company, but if you are identifying those openings, go apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So especially if you are coming right out of school with a tech writing degree or just an English degree. So I see there's another one, how much technical experience or technical communication experience that you need. It's if you're applying for an entry level position, the person that's hiring you is not going to expect you to be able to be the only technical writer on a program. They're not going to expect you to have all the answers. The expectation is you are going to have somebody that is an experienced technical writer working alongside of you to, teach you at the same time as you are doing technical writing. For example, we have other technical writers that have, they did the internships or they were were new college grads when we brought them in, and we assigned them to programs that had an experienced technical writer on the program with them. They are basically doing almost like technical editing. So they are taking the documentation that is being written by the experienced technical writer, and they are proofreading it. They, again, peer reviews. Remember the peer reviews that I talked about? That's what they're doing. And at the same time that they're doing these peer reviews, they're being instructed on, this is the voice that we use for this customer. This is the style that we're using. So they, if they don't have experience with, for example, FrameMaker, they are getting that opportunity, that experience in FrameMaker without having the whole pressure of, you are the one and only person responsible for writing this document. And as they gain more experience and that lead technical writer feels more comfortable and confident in their abilities, they'll start giving them smaller and small tasks. For example, hey, we've got this piece of equipment, just came in, it needs to be documented, go and do the controls and indicators. So that means everything that's on that you see on the front and everything that you see on the back. Tell me what all of them are, what gets connected, what doesn't get connected, and what do each of those do. And if it's lighting up red, what does that mean? If it's blue, yellow, green, tell me what all that means. And those are controls and indicators. Then as they move on, okay, we need to do a repair and replace procedure for that piece of equipment. So go work with a technician, work with an engineering, an engineer, write the procedure to, okay, this piece of equipment has failed. I need to pull it out and I need to put a new one in, document it, then peer review it, redline it, do it again. So, the expectation for an entry-level position is you are not going to be expected to jump in and know everything. You should, be expected to have to learn. So I see somebody ask the question about, how do you show that you have, a passion for tech writing, but you have no experience? If you are in school or you just graduated from school, yes, talk about your tech writing classes, explain the projects that you did, and how you accomplished what those projects were, because all of us have been there. This is what we did in class because I don't have any other experience. Internships are great. L3Harris is just one company that does internships. I personally, when I was there at UCF, I interned with the Institute for Simulation and Training. And they were amazing. It was a great experience for me. And I learned a lot while working there. So Disney does internships, Universal does internships. So there's a bunch of different companies, especially there in the Orlando area, that do internships. And you can gain a lot of experience. Defense industry is there's a lot of us down here in Florida, but we're not the only thing in town. So
I want to tag on to just a little bit more. Another awesome way to show interest in technical writing is asking questions. It's what you're going to do all day long. You're going to ask, what does that do? What does that do? What does that connect to? Why does the user need to know? Does the user need to know that? Asking insightful questions is great because the idea is you've done your research, you know what the topics are, but you need details. So going into an interview and being able to ask insightful, what tools do you use? What style do you use? Those kind of technical writer questions that say, I've researched this job. I know what it is I'm applying for. Tell me more about how you do it. Those are going to be almost just as impactful as saying, I specifically did this thing. Like having both of those is a great way to build up that interview, even if you don't have a million things to point back to.
That makes me feel better. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, and I will just tag on asking questions, even if I've interviewed a lot of people, and it's not just for technical writers, because again, I have a huge department. If I get to the end of an interview and I say, okay, I'm giving you 15 minutes to ask any questions that you have for us, for the interview panel, and they're like, yeah, I don't have any questions. It's kind of like, really? You have no questions? None at all? You don't have any questions about the dynamics of the company, about, the dynamics of the team, or how we do things. You have no questions at all. That definitely knocks people down in our opinion and whether we want to hire that person. Lack of curiosity is not something that goes over well in IPS. We love curious people. So, and also I will say, please, if you're interviewing with any company, do your research on that company. One of my favorite questions to ask is, so tell me, what do you know about L3Harris and what do we do? And you will be surprised how many people are like, yeah, I don't know what you guys do. I'm like, then how do you know you want to work for us?
Yeah, one of our interns actually a couple of years ago that Melissa asked, so what do you know about the company? And he started talking about, I think it was the F-35.
Yep.
And it was like he was reading the page, but I could tell he did the work. He Googled the company, he read the page, he took meaningful information from it.
Yep.
And that still stands, that was several years ago, that stands out.
Yep. So I will say that, we interviewed a certain Melissa Olds and we asked her, what do you know about L3Harris? And she was like, so I've lived in Palm Bay my whole life and they're right down the street from me and they do this and they do that. And I was like, okay, we love this girl. So yeah, that's a big deal. Always whoever you are applying for, if you've applied and you get called for an interview, do your research on the company, find out what they do, and think of questions. Be prepared to ask questions. I tell everybody, write down a list of questions that you have before you even go into that interview. They may answer them while you are interviewing, but have a list of 10 questions that you want to ask. Hopefully they give you the opportunity to ask those questions, but it's not asking questions, that's not good either. So
are there any wrong questions?
No, I have not had really any wrong questions. I mean, I even had one person that I interviewed ask me that if I could be any animal, what would it be? It was
Really?
the most curveball question I've ever been asked, and it kind of threw all of us. We're like, well, that's a weird one. But it was a fun question, and obviously I remember it. I do, probably 2 to 3 interviews a week and have been doing it that many for 5 years now, but I still remember being asked if I could be any animal, what would it be? And we actually wanted to offer him a job. Unfortunately, he took a job with another company before we got around to offering him, but we loved it. I was like, well, that is a definite curveball question. So made an impression though.
So I have a question. So you all have touched upon it several times, sort of how using subject matter experts and gaining knowledge for them is such a large and important part of the job overall. So how do you integrate the knowledge of those subject matter experts into your work, and how do you go about gathering that information from them?
Luke, do you want to touch on this? Because I bet your experience is different from mine.
Oh yes, certainly. I can definitely tell you some stories. So at the start of it, you definitely have to make sure you have your people skills on point, because every person is a different individual. We all have our own sort of likes and dislikes. So being able to key in onto like what kind of person your subject matter expert is really important. You want to be able to sort of, quickly relate to them, be, friendly to them to a point. You don't want to, have a hostile work environment between the two of you. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to bug him for information that he doesn't want to have to tell you, or, feels like he's too busy to tell you. So sometimes it's, creative when it comes to, extracting information out of them. So being able to sort of know when to approach people correctly, knowing, how to meet them on their level. Because like I said before, that, everyone's a little different. So with some of the more old school personalities I've worked with, usually a sort of a one-on-one in-person interaction works best. You know, they might duck your instant messages and your emails, but when you show up knocking at their door and you have a very specific question saying, "Hey, tell me exactly how this mechanic works so I can, you know, explain it better in my document," they're usually more than happy to do so. It's just sometimes they don't want to always, you know, interact with technology every single moment of their day. So knowing, you know, more about your expert is good. Being flexible and being able to, you know, work with them in whatever format is best for them is always good. And oftentimes, you know, being able to know when they are and aren't out of the office. So if you have a hard time contacting someone, there's been times where I've staked out the lunchroom and waited for them to go grab lunch so I could ambush them and say, "Hey, Mike, oh man, I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, I got a quick question for you," and just don't leave until you get your answer.
Yeah. I have at least two things to add to that. One is before I talk to a SME, I do as much research. I learn as much as I can. I want to have read every drawing. I want to read if they are using Confluence or some other note keeping. I want to read all of that. I want to go, I don't know, look at a legacy manual. I want to know as much as I can before I have that first conversation. Most SMEs respond really well if you say, "I have this question, this much, that's it. I just need this much." Way better than saying, "Tell me everything you know about this project you've been working on for 10 years, go." So learning first and asking after you've gotten some traction usually helps. The other one is to Luke's point about how sometimes there's friction. For me, understanding that we've got everybody's got different goals. Every single person, every single team has got their own end of the day goals. They've got their own long-term goals. For many of the developmental engineers, their goal is to put a perfect product on the road on day one. And they're surrounded. So you've got your hardware engineers and your software engineers and your firmware and I don't know, and they're all like, "We're going to build a product and put it on the road on day one." And that's really important. And I'm all for it. IPS is actually made up of people who say, "I'm going to make sure that that product works perfectly every single day from the day it's put on the road to the day its end of life comes." Those sound sort of the same, but they're different. They're two different goals. And so understanding that these guys are like, "Hoorah!" in this direction, and I'm like, "Super," but also is a nice way of guiding them to where I need them to be.
Yeah. So one of the IPS, functions on a program is design influence. So there are opportunities that when we are working with it, as I mentioned at the very beginning, is we are the interface that the customer usually sees. So we are the people that the customer is usually interfacing with, either through our documentation efforts or the trainers. So we are the ones that get the feedback from the customers. And so as you get more experience and you're working on these programs and moving from program to program to program, you see these pitfalls. So it's, if you can get ingrained with the engineering team without ruffling too many feathers, and then pointing out to them, yeah, this is a great design. However, did you think about how somebody is supposed to fix it when it breaks? For example, my team, this is about probably 5 years ago now, where we were working on a communication system, and it was a transportable antenna array, 4.6 meter transportable antenna array, and it had a curbside and roadside rack full of equipment. They did not include us in the design of this antenna. They designed the antenna, they brought the antenna in, and then they gave it to us. "Hey, here's the antenna." And so we're crawling around this antenna. We're having a grand time learning all about this antenna. And then we start looking at the equipment that's located in the roadside and curbside rack. And we're kind of cocking our head going, "All right, so I see how these pull out, But what happens when, how do we take out these pieces of equipment when they fail? Because everything fails. And so we poking around, and then we realize there's this little tiny door in between the curbside roadside rack. And we're looking at it. We take it out. Oh, this is how we get to the back of the equipment so that we can decable and pull out the pieces of equipment. And so one of the people that was on my team, he was a 6'5" technical trainer, logistician, and maintainer. He was in prior U.S. Army, very, very large, muscular guy. So he's looking at it, and he's trying to get in to that little tiny opening to be able to decable the equipment. He couldn't. He could get his head and a shoulder and an arm in. That's all he could get in. This much of him. And so he's trying to reach, can't reach any of the cables, can't decable anything. So then he's like, oh, he backs out of it. He points at me because I'm about a foot shorter than him. And he's like, you try to get in there. I got my waist in. I got, the top part of my body, but I still couldn't really maneuver well I could decable some of the stuff that I could reach, but the stuff above my head, nope, couldn't reach it. So we went back to the design team, and it's like, so did you think about, the fact that people have to actually be able to decable this? Because this is for the U.S. Air Force. So what now? So that was one of the things that, we didn't rub it in their face, but we're like, this is why you need to talk to us. And we've got some subject matter expertise ourselves. But they then had to redesign that opening so people could get into it and decable that equipment. But you have to be able to work with your team and figure out who to approach. I mean, we had a couple of engineers who were like, no, we're not talking to them because they're not friendly. We went to the friendly ones and pointed out the error, the problem that we were running into. And we were able to fix it, but design influence is a huge part of what we do. It's just whether we actually get to play a role in design influence, or if we just get brought in at the end and say, document it, because that happens way too often. So, but yeah, being able to determine personality types and how to integrate with them. Definitely the research aspect before you go and talk to somebody goes a long way, especially when dealing with engineers who are considered subject matter experts. So you're not going to have an entry-level engineer considered a subject matter expert. Most of the subject matter experts are going to be people who've been with the company for 15 to 20 years. And the longer that they're with a company and the higher up they are, the more responsibilities they have and the less time that they have to spend answering questions. So knowing the specific questions that you need answers to and having a good understanding so that you don't have to get them to explain every single word that they're saying to you is going to go a long way on winning you brownie points and allowing you to continue going back to that person.
Okay, thank you. I like all of the tips and hearing about the collaboration. Definitely very interesting. Does anyone else have any questions that they want to unmute to ask or put in the chat?
Yeah, could I jump in really quick? What is something that either you feel your team or L3Harris as a whole does differently in TechComm that helps you stand out, be different than your competitors?
This is where I wish Tina was here.
I would hazard a guess, and I've only been a tech grader for 4 years. I was a paralegal for 15 years before I went back to school. But tech grading I've only been doing a short time, and I've only been with L3Harris. But I would hazard a guess that our department, IPS, does working differently than most other big companies. We are very supportive. We're very integrated. It's not accidental. It's part of, actually, it's one of our goals this year was to do some sort of mentorship, whether you were mentoring down or mentoring up or mentoring both, whichever. It's not something that happened because it's something that's very intentionally developed and fostered, that team group. I mean, I might be out in a program and be the only person on it, and fine, but when I come back in and go, guys, maintenance manuals, right? And they're all like, yeah. And it's that sort of thing where you can have a community, that maybe every company's like that, but that's not my experience. I really appreciate that about our department in particular.
So,
I'll chip in
yep, go ahead,
for
Luke.
a quick minute. And my career has only been with Harris, but I remember one particular interaction with a customer where it was early on in the phase, and we were developing the training documentation and the sort of the user manuals and hardware manuals for our prototypes. And when I handed him, a binder with about 100 pages of sort of sample documentation of how the progress is coming along, he flipped a few times and went, "Oh, wow, you have your figures in color." So I think that the fact that L3Harris is willing to, try new things, and we're trying to stay on the edge of things by, using a W frame maker. We're using XML type writing. We're using S1000D writing. We're not stuck in the past of only using Microsoft Word and only using Microsoft PowerPoint, because for a lot of our customers, that's all they're used to. Some people, they only see documentation in black and white. So even something as simple as color is able to be considered a cut above.
I have one more. I'm so glad you chimed in, Luke, because it reminded me that just recently you'd gotten a compliment from a customer indicating that he was impressed with the amount of flexibility that you were able to offer that through L3Harris. Being able to work around the customer. So as a tech writer, we have to know our audience, we need to know your user, but being able to actually meet the user where they are specifically. I think Luke was doing training at odd hours so that he could make sure that the person who needed that information had the information. Not every company even has mechanics to make that work. L3Harris, I think definitely we can do it because we did. And when you're in this type of environment, you can go above and beyond. Thanks, Luke.
So I will chime in. So as I mentioned, L3Harris, we hire for the skill set. There are several defense contractors that, they hire for the skill set, but it's only for that specific need. So if the program ends or the contract doesn't get awarded, all of a sudden you're out of a job. It doesn't matter that you have a skill set that they might possibly need. They're just not going to make the effort to move you to another program because they hired you for XYZ contract. XYZ contract is over, or they didn't get awarded, and hey, it was nice having you. Good luck with the rest of your career. And then I have so I worked for a couple of different companies. And I will say that a lot of times, it's a very, very small group, a very, very small department. You don't have a lot of interfaces with, other teams. So if you run into a problem, you got to figure it out yourself. Other contractors, I have a lot of people that I've worked with over the years that have gone to other companies, and they've commiserated with me, or they've complained about the different situations that they've been in. So I've kind of gotten some insight with the companies, other companies across across Florida, even across the Southeast. That you're hired for documentation, and that's all you're ever exposed to. You are kind of in a group of tech writers, and you are given an assignment, and that's what you do, and you don't get to do anything else, and you don't really get to grow and expand. There's no opportunities to learn other skill sets because you are the tech writing. You're just this group of tech writers who are assigned a tech writing, assignment, and you get that done, and then you move on to the next tech writing assignment, or you only work on this certain section of it could be a gigantic manual, but you only get to ever look at one piece of hardware, one one portion of the software, and that's all you ever get exposed to. Where with L3Harris, you move from program to program to program. Some people will stay within a product line because they are very good at that product line, or they have a classified, they have a clearance that is necessary for supporting that product line. But you still have the opportunity to grow and expand outside of just doing technical writing. I will say, I've been exposed to so many different product lines throughout my 23-year career, that I have worked in the communications area. I've supported space, I've supported various classified programs, I've supported telecommunications, wireless programs. So I have been exposed to a lot of different programs that L3Harris has done throughout the years. I've met a lot of different people, and it's every single one I've learned something new. It's learned not just for my personal development, but I'm also getting exposure to, the technology. And it's like, I have the coolest job in the world because I'm getting to, play with this equipment that nobody else is getting to play with because it's not even out there for everybody to use. And then on top of that, I, love the fact that we are, for the most part, everything that I do is supporting our military in some way. So keeping our soldiers safe and bringing them home to their family is a big deal to me. So
that's all super exciting and it sounds very fulfilling. Thank you for sharing.
So as we're approaching the end of our session, does anyone have a final question they would like to have answered?
I do kind of want to know now what you answered as the animal you want to be. I mean, you kind of set that up. I feel like we need to know now, right? Like,
We need resolution.
yeah.
So I believe, if I remember correctly, I wanted to be a dolphin. So I can't remember why I picked dolphin, but it seemed like an appropriate answer at the time.
So there's one more point of interest that I'd like to offer if we've got an extra minute. You have an opportunity while you're in school to learn about just everything. I would definitely take some time to learn about the engineering process. There's a standard way of getting an assignment for the whole product, how it's designed, how it moves through the process, how it's tested, how it's released, et cetera, et cetera. Learning about that engineering process is helpful. Getting to understand, it helps you understand what those guys are running off to do, what deadlines they're trying to meet, and working around it and with it. That was something I wish I had had before I walked in. The other big one, is program management. I have been using some aspect of program management since my first day. I don't know if it's every engineer does it, but in technical writing specifically, the projects that we work on are mini products. So say we're building a robot and everyone else is super focused on building the robot, you're also building a manual. And that manual is its own product. It has its own development phase. It has its own deadlines. It has its own, you have to test all of it. You have to, it's got all these other benchmarks it's got to meet that are moving side by side with the product. Your product and that product are working together. So understanding project management philosophy and theory is a great way to kind of get a jump start on getting everything placed. And understanding both of those concepts, once again, give you the background to ask insightful questions during an interview. So if you understand theory about, okay, I know that I need to read through the requirements and make a list of the things that the user is going to need to know, and that's going to be what feeds into my outline, et cetera, et cetera. If you know that stuff, then they'll set you up and you can be like, tell me more about how your process works of converting requirements into an outline. that way you're demonstrating I've done the research. I'm here with information without actually having been like, this is the time that I did this thing. So those are two important things that are to the side of technical writing, but I would have liked to have had before I walked in.
And I'll chip in with my little last piece of advice, which is when you're in college, this is a really good time to work on your skill sets. And a lot of the Adobe suite products like Photoshop and Illustrator, they're all very well known in the industry. They're very familiar. A lot of programs and projects will use some version of them at some time or another. And I do know that if you have a working email address as a student email address, like, at ufc.edu, you can get access to a lot of Adobe software on a monthly basis for a big discount. So if you can, pull together some money, it's a good opportunity to get some extra bullet points on your resume.
Yes, definitely second that. Adobe FrameMaker, Adobe Illustrator, Dreamweaver, Photoshop, any of those tools are something that is going to be used, or even if it's not being used by the company you're interviewing for or the project that you are getting ready to support, the fact that you have that, on your resume is something that you are at least familiar with or experienced with. It does definitely say that you've taken the time to learn a very complex tool. There's a lot of features in all of those. And I will say if you, so I actually haven't looked for Illustrator and Photoshop recently, but I do know that there is a excellent YouTube channel out there that does training. It is actually Adobe certified training for Adobe FrameMaker. And I think there's like 6 different lessons. They're about an hour and a half long, out on YouTube, and they're free. And they are very, very good. I skimmed through them actually to send to Melissa and to John. And I was pretty amazed. I was like, wow, where was this when I was teaching myself FrameMaker? So yeah, they are out there, and there's probably something out there for Illustrator and Photoshop as well. So definitely, browse on YouTube and see what you can find for free. But I would highly recommend trying to get one that's Adobe, Adobe certified trainer, not just, somebody that's, hey, I think I know how to do this.
And then I want to connect that back to the front again. After you've learned that thing, go put it on your portfolio. That's when you can write a blog post. Hey, I learned all about this satellite, and I created this figure and this figure, and I wrote all this over here. That learn as much as you can, and then you're going to need a mechanism to memorialize it, to show it, to explain it, and that's what you're going to use your portfolio for.
Great, thank you for all of that advice. If no one else has any other final questions, I think this is a good thing, a good place to stop things for tonight. So thank you again to all of our panelists. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I appreciate the time you've taken. Just a reminder for the participants tonight, the L3Harris Technical Writing internship. That application is due December 31st, and this is a 2-part series. So the next part in the series will be tomorrow night, 7 p.m., and it's a hybrid meeting. So thank you again.